Hopefully folks are filling in here. I'm just checking on a couple extra buttons. Okay. Wonderful. Well, thank you all for joining us this evening. Do need to do one more. Where's the button? There we go. Okay. Thank you again for your patience as I found all those buttons. We are so delighted to have you joining us this evening for our live virtual event with Chloe Davis for the Queen's English. I'm Jessica from Country Bookshelf in Bozeman, and we are grateful to be here in this virtual space with our fellow Books in Common Northwest stores. That's Paulina Springs Books in Sisters, Oregon, and Madison Books in Seattle, Washington. Visit booksincommonnw.com for more information and follow us on Eventbrite to register for more great Books in Common events. Spoiler or maybe teaser, next week we will be talking with Maggie Shipstead and Julian Sancton, two great books all about adventure and the history and biography of some great adventures from the early 20th century. Before we get to Chloe this evening, I did want to point out just a couple things about our virtual space. You can purchase a copy of The Queen's English from Chloe Davis just by visiting booksincommonnw.com and clicking on the logo of your favorite sponsoring store. We are recording tonight's event, and it will be viewable later on the Books in Common YouTube channel once the event concludes. We are also streaming live there, so if you run into any technical issues along the way, we do recommend that you first exit and re-enter the webinar. And if that doesn't work, you can find us on that YouTube channel. We will be streaming live there as well. If you have questions for Chloe tonight, you can submit them by clicking on the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen or dropping them in the chat. And we'll get to them as time allows. We also will be doing a little bit of trivia tonight. So if you want to be the first to answer that, you want to hit the raise hand button, which will either be at the bottom of your screen or under your name as an attendee. So check that out there. I do also recommend, if you're having trouble with sound, just pop some headphones in. That usually fixes things. And we do want to remind everyone that this is a shared creative space that we want to remain safe for everyone who's joined us this evening. So we ask that you be respectful of everyone who's joined us tonight. Offensive or inappropriate comments will see the user dismissed from the space. So without further ado, Chloe Davis is a proud Black bisexual woman and debut author who works in the entertainment industry in New York. A graduate of Hampton University and Temple University, she has centered her creative platform on amplifying the narratives of Black culture and heightening the awareness of the LGBTQIA+ community. Davis's work as a dancer, actor, and creative has allowed her to travel to all 50 states and internationally, where she spent 15 years researching, writing, and creating The Queen's English, the LGBT dictionary of lingo and colloquial phrases. Davis celebrates the etymological diversity of over 800 terms used to describe the collective gay and queer experience, and believes The Queen's English is a starting point for important conversations around inclusivity, sexuality, gender expression, and identity. Welcome, Chloe.
Hi, Jessica. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you to Country Bookshelf for having me. I'm just like grinning from ear to ear. I don't know. I guess it just never gets old that, you know, this dictionary is here, that the Queen's English is here. So every time, you know, I hear an introduction, it just makes me smile. So thank you so much for welcoming me into this space. Hello, Montana. Hello, Oregon. Hello, Washington. I'm joining you from New York City. So, you know, I love how our wings are just spreading across the country. But thank you for being here tonight and in discussion of the Queen's English. Yes, this is I want to say, kind of say like my baby. I've been working on this dictionary for over a decade, actually like 15 years. But I love it because it is inclusive and it really affirms like all identities, right? And it really articulates the true spectrum of identity and in all of its beauty. I felt that there weren't many resources that really, articulated, identity. And when I say the diversity of identity, we have those letters, right? LGBTQIA plus, right? But it's actually more than that. Our identity is layered, right? It is our sexual orientation or our romantic orientation, or even, the absence of that, right? Because of asexuality or being aromantic. But there's also those layers of about, our gender identity and how we express that gender identity, right? And then on top of that, there's the intersectionality of race and age and religion and first language, right? All of these layers of us really articulate who we are. And I like to say that language was created because of a need to articulate an experience, right? And particularly within the larger gay and queer spectrum, language is created to truly articulate who we are, right? Because mainstream didn't have the language for it, or it wasn't in a way that really affirmed us. So what I love about this dictionary is that I really try to make sure that we all see ourselves in this dictionary, and that we really feel seen and heard, and acknowledged, but more importantly, celebrated and empowered.
Definitely. Well, I just wanted to give folks a peek inside. Speaking about some of that spectrum, this is under the L section and is just a list of different types of lesbians that can exist and can find identity there. So obviously the interior of the book is beautiful and gorgeous and full of all sorts of wonderful and fascinating art and charts and it was just such a wonderful book to dive into and like nerd around in. Like, I love a good infographic. So you mentioned that it was about a 15-year process. I'm curious what your research process was like over that 15 years, and sort of if there was an inciting incident that you were like, oh, I wonder, that sent you on this path.
Absolutely. So a little bit about me is that I am an artist. I'm a creator. I'm an actor, dancer. And so I actually started this journey when I was a part of a dance company in Philadelphia called the Philadelphia Dance Company. And we were just around each other all the time. We toured 52 weeks out the year, and we just become really, really close. And during that time, there were a lot of men in the company who were part of the ballroom scene. So we're going to talk a little bit about the ballroom scene and what I mean about that. If you've seen Pose, right, or of course like Drag Race, right, you hear this language. It's vibrant, it's exciting, it's exaggerative, and it's fierce, right? Fierce, it's slay. So learning words like fierce, slay, over, snatch, come through, push through, I was like, whoa, this language, what is it? And I had some funny, but also just really loving company members, kind of break it down to me. And I think that's when I started to nerd out, and I'm just like, what does this mean? And what does that mean? I just kept, anytime I would hear a new word, I would ask what it meant. So here was the play of it, right? Because when I would ask what a word means, a lot of times, if you're using slang, and I don't want to call the language in this dictionary slang, because it's not, it's a language. But, in our eyes beforehand, it would be kind of like slang, right? And I say that to say is a lot of times when we think of words that are slang, we actually use slang to define it. So what was happening is that I would actually listen and try to interpret the word and try to give it this academic, we called it Oxford Dictionary type of definition. And it was a fun game, it was just kind of like, how can I, give it, the scholarly nuance, right? But eventually I got really, really curious because I was really diving into language and finding the history, or what we want to say, the etymology of these words. And, when we talk about the ballroom scene started in New York City, particularly in Harlem, New York. And it started because of racism, because of transphobia, because of, homophobia, because of marginalization and oppression, right? Because Black and Latino or Latinx, gay, trans, queer individuals needed a space to thrive, needed a space to feel affirmed and empowered for who they are, right? And so that's why this community was created, right? Having houses that really nurtured young people who were, put out of their homes and disengaged by their community because of the fact, again, because of their identity. And so the ballroom scene was created to empower these young people and to empower, people of color, right? And from that, balls were created, right? And it was this place that you could truly be yourself, right? And you can, whatever you felt, whatever you wanted to be, it was welcomed in that space. So you have butch queens and femme queens and drag queens, right? These are some of the language or identities or categories that people are kind of like, they walk in, right? So butch queen, and if you have your dictionary, you can flip through. But a butch queen is someone who is a cisgender man, right? Most often who is gay, bisexual, and queer, right? A femme queen is most often someone who is a transgender woman or a trans feminine woman, right? And we know what a drag queen is, right? Or a drag king. And these are individuals who are cisgender individuals, whether they be cisgender male or cisgender women, but they will dress and perform in a more exaggerative form of masculinity or femininity, right? So these are it's just a little bit, and I throw those terms out because that's what I mean about how language is created to articulate an experience, right? And that's in the ballroom scene. So how I was just learning more and more about that. But what was actually happening is I was not necessarily just diving into that. I was diving into other communities. And that's what I say about intersectionality, like diving into the lesbian community, right? But the Black lesbian community versus a white lesbian community are two totally different things. Same as, Black gay men, white gay men, Latino gay men, AAPI, very different, because all of our experiences are very unique. So therefore, and they're all valid. So, we never want to make anything monolithic. So that's what was beautiful about the dictionary. I was really wanting to just dive into all of these experiences and find the language that articulates these experiences. So the research, right? What I really love is that, probably a good 70% of these terms in here were given to me firsthand, primary, so there were a lot of interviews, whether it be one-on-one, whether it be group discussions, and just talking about life, talking about words that empower, words that articulate who you are, words that are harmful, words that are filled with malice and trauma, right? But it was just a way to really dive into the power of words and storytelling, and that's what really moved me. So I think that also the connection with being a creative and an actor, dancer, performer is that I was always put in different spaces, right? So there was Philadelphia, but then I moved into more of a musical theater world, right? So that allowed me to travel all over the US, and I get to go to visit neighborhoods and things like that. And also the arts I love because it's a place where we can just kind of be who we are, unapologetically. And so, castmates, diving into this project with me, introducing me to their friends or their family members, introducing me to other people. So that's really how the ball got rolling and how it grew from maybe like 50 words to now over 800 words, And then I think the last part that I wanted to say, like why I really wanted to do this. So I don't know if you all hear this. So I'm in New York and, it's loud. It's the ambulance. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
welcome to apartment in New York. But another thing too, which is really important, is just learning who I am, right? Like diving into my identity, because I couldn't find resources that really truly articulated being bisexual, right? In the early 2000s and even before, and even not long after, it was very, we talk about binary, but even in the binary of being, either heterosexual, homosexual, right? There was no in between. You had to choose a side. So, having a resource that didn't mute me, that actually celebrated me, that actually helped guide me into say, oh, I am valid. Like, I am, like, what I feel is real, right? Because others feel this way too. So I think I was also striving to make sure that I can create a resource that could validate me, and in so could also validate other identities.
We in publishing and in books, we talk a lot about representation, and I feel like representing your identity not only to yourself but also to others, so that they can see themselves sort of in your experience, but then also build on that and grow their own experience, is such a wonderful thing that I particularly love about literature and books and words, as we sort of explore this. But one of the things that struck me as I was reading, and you kind of touched on this a little bit, is some of that intersectionality. And I'm curious if you can speak on sort of the relationship to some closed vernaculars or closed words or word communities to and how that sort of found entrance into a more LGBT plus dictionary. Like what was that journey like? And did it feel uncomfortable to be pulling something from a more ethnically like closed dictionary and applying it? Because I know like YAAAS Queen, or cis, like that comes from the Black community.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And so how does that, how is the LGBTQ plus community able to grow that and widen the umbrella of
right. So here's the other thing that I keep trying to like articulate, is that this dictionary shows the intersectionality of words, right? And of communities, right? So I talked a little bit about the ballroom scene, right? Which is, Black Latinx, but then you also just have Black gay men, Black lesbian women, Black trans, Black, non-binary, again, AAPI queer, you have these different groups. And it's not even just about race, right? We also just have, in general, you have poly, right? Those who are polyamorous. You have those who are bi-gender, or those who are asexual or aromantic. You have the leather community. You have BDSM, right? So what it is it's under when I say LGBTQIA plus, it's that plus that is really important, because it articulates identity that's not always, well, you can call it minority identities, but identities that are not always in the forefront, right? We know about gay, we know about lesbian, and even trans, of course, trans and gender nonconforming community like is rising, and visibility is there, and it will continue to be there because it's very important. But there's more, right? There's demi girl, demi boy. There, like I said before, there's agender, there's bigender, there's, pan romantic. So what this dictionary does, it shows the diversity of humanity. That's what it is. I mean, we give it the acronym, sure, but what this is just really showing the diversity and the spectrum of humanity. And what's important, to talk about what you're saying is, there's a really, let's see if I can find it. There's a lot going on with this dictionary, right? You show that it's colorful, and you also show that, there's charts. But what's really, really important about this dictionary, along the side of having its definitions plural, right? If there's more than one way to define a word. There's the usage example showing you how the word is actually used, particularly within the community. But what I really, really love is it's called a usage note, and it's nice and red because it means alert, alert, right? And particularly, which is a great one that I'm talking about. So this one is you would say Lord, but it's Lord, like that, right? But this one says, this term originated in Black American culture and is used in the Black, gay, and queer community. It has been appropriated by mainstream. So what this does is it goes deeper again to say that where this term comes from, right? It comes from Black American, right? Black Americans. And it is commonly used within the Black, gay, and queer community, right? So here's another more important thing we have to talk about in general. Being a Black bisexual woman does not dismiss me of being of my Black American culture. And so that's what I want to say. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't dismiss me. So yes, you give the umbrella to say this comes from Black America, but more particularly too, Black gay, Black queer, Black trans people also use this. It is very common in the language. So that's how it also fits in here. It's giving, I feel what I really appreciate about the usage notes, it gives that type of credibility to who created the word. And you do see that, overlap, because again, just because I'm Black and queer, Black and gay, and Black and lesbian, Black same gender loving, doesn't dismiss my Black American culture and traditions and heritage, right? So that, I think that's what you mean how did it fit in here? Well, it fit in here because Black queer people say it, right? But it is under the umbrella of it coming from Black American language and culture, right? And then there's some things that are just came from Black gay men or came from Black trans women, you know what I mean? And that's in here as well. But also I want to, another note about these usage notes, for instance, like hyphen. This term originated in the lesbian community and has been appropriated by the LGBTQIA plus community. So these usage notes are actually diving in to tell you what community created it or what community commonly uses it. So you have like more of an idea of how this language is used, why it's used, where it's used, But what's really important about this dictionary is a lot of times when I would see things on gay culture, queer culture, it was really through one lens, and it was very white. It's a white lens, right? I did not get to see myself in that, right? And so I was passionate about creating a resource that everyone saw themselves, everyone, it doesn't matter where you are, what part of the spectrum, what letter of the alphabet, but that you're going to see yourself in here. So that's why it's in here. It's a very inclusive, intersectional, diverse dictionary. And I think that's our world. Our world is like that. It's not monolithic. It's very diverse and on a spectrum. And so I wanted to create, this dictionary that truly represented that.
And so much prettier.
Yeah.
Because of that diversity.
Yes. And I can talk a little bit about the actual, going in a little bit more about like the layout of the dictionary. So again, you have the term and you have your definitions or definition or definitions. You have a usage example. You also have a really cool synonym, right? Which was one of my joys of finding like, how can, like, if you wanted to do a quick reference, right? Like the term and what does it mean? You can go to the synonym and it has like a little emoji there, like a little, and it actually says want more info, think, and it gives you like, like a synonym or like a phrase that can connect that. And then also we talked about the usage notes. And then there's also another element it's called, did you know, right? So that goes even deeper, right? If there's like some historical, background on a word, like going deeper as the evolution of it, like particularly we can talk about the evolution of queer, we can talk about the evolution of dyke, the evolution of faggot, right? So these words were definitely pejorative and derogatory, right? However, these words have been reappropriated, not by all, but by many, by some, you know, in our community, that reappropriated to give it more of an empowering, you know, element to it, like self-proclaimed, you know what I mean? Like queer all the time. We're hearing that more and more. You know, queer is empowering. However, in the same breath, to someone else, that may not be, right? Because of where you, like how that word presented. If you're older, you know, possibly that doesn't empower you, right? But if you're younger, it's like, no, it empowers me, because queer is really this umbrella or this kind of like catch-all term to identify something that, or someone who could be fluid, or someone who is non-cisgender, or someone who, you know, is non-heterosexual. And it just gives them the opportunity to be who they want to be without labels, without, you know, putting themselves in a box, right? So I think, you know, all of these elements of the dictionary are really important. And then I want to say, because I'm just, you know, I'm a creator, so it's really, really colorful, but I want to talk a little bit about the illustrations and the art. So I remember imagining what I wanted this dictionary to look like. And I was like, I want it to be a coffee table book, because like, it's not, you know, it's a dictionary, but it's a fun dictionary. I have this reference in my head. So, you know, Mean Girls, when I think it's Mean Girls, when the mom is like, you know, I'm not a regular mom, like I'm a cool mom. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, not a regular dictionary, it's a cool dictionary, you know? So I just thought, you know, if we're gonna really learn, right? Because this is what I want us to do. I want us to be engaged. I want us to be engaged visually with color and art. And I'm so excited that I got a chance to work with some amazing gay, you know, and queer artists. And my main illustrator, his name is Troy Lambert. I call him my creative brother. And he's just spectacular. And he just really understood what I wanted to do. And I just loved creating with him. We recreated images that were, that could like help expand, you know, on a term, but we also created images that could go directly with the term, right? Particularly when I think about one of those, I think of U-Haul, right? And so of course the dictionary is in alphabetical order, but U-Haul, let me find it. Here it is. So it's actually the opener for you, but you know, U-Haul. So we have, you know, two lovers here with their truck because they are U-Hauling. And I'm going to read U-Haul. So if for those who don't know, U-Haul, idiom, a lesbian term referring to a woman's readiness to quickly commit and even move in with a new romantic interest. And this is the usage example. Dominique. Leela has been seeing Hope for a week. I call U-Haul in about 5 more days. Iris. No way. They'll be U-Hauling tomorrow. One more info, think the ultimate lesi stereotype. And the usage note says, this term originated in the lesbian community. Yes, and you're showing the illustration. So these are just, you know, pictures, what? They give you 1,000 words, right? So it's just a really great, engaging way to learn more from the dictionary. And also I worked with 3 other illustrators, Cassandra Fontaine, Shanae Benjamin, and Mark Urey. So I've loved what they've done with this, and you know, it's creative and colorful, but most importantly, it celebrates identity, and it's also a learning tool for all of us.
Definitely. I feel like I have a million questions. One of our other bookstores sent me some questions because they weren't sure if they were going to be able to make the timing. Okay. But it might be a great time to test some of our knowledge.
Okay. You want to do a little trivia?
Yes. So for folks, if you missed our introduction, if you want to answer the question, raise your hand. So there's a raise hand button at the bottom of your screen. It should also be under the More tab of your name if you are looking at participants. So raise your hand if you want to answer the question.
All right, are we ready? Okay, so since it's almost Pride Month, we're going to start with this one. Sylvia Rivera. So this is true and false. Okay.
Okay.
Sylvia Rivera and Marsha P. Johnson are iconic figures known for their leadership during the Stonewall riots in 1969. True or false? And Jessica, I'll let you pick the person.
Oh, we might be having trouble finding our raise hand button. Be fast in the comment in the chat if you can't find your raise hand button.
Yeah, throw it in the chat then. I'll read it again. Sylvia Rivera, and if you have your Queen's English dictionary, you can look through it quickly. It's not cheating, it's learning.
Okay. It's a resource.
So Sylvia Rivera and Marsha P. Johnson are iconic figures known for their leadership during the Stonewall riots in 1969. Is that true or is that false? We'll give 10 more seconds and we'll just give the answer. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The answer is true.
Everyone got it right.
Yeah, amazing. Okay. Okay, here's a good one. So this is also true and false. They is the only pronoun used within the non-binary community. Again, they is the only pronoun used within the non-binary community. Is this true or is this false?
Catherine jumped in first.
Okay, what did Catherine say?
Catherine says false.
Yes, yes, good job. Yes, let's talk about this. So they may be a popular one, but that is not the only pronoun used by non-binary individuals. There's there's many other pronouns. And actually, I'm gonna share this really fast. In the dictionary, there is a chart. So I didn't really talk about these. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about these charts. So in the dictionary, there's these interstitial spreads, and they go in depth with kind of the who, what, where, when, why, how of the LGBTQ community, right? So this page, actually, if you see it, it says common pronouns 101, right? And if you look, you see there's several. We have he, she, they, they, e, right? And it shows the object, possessive, and the continuation of those. Yes. So that's one. And we also have a few others, right? So this one is a spread on the Harlem Renaissance and the contributions of Zora Neale Hurston and Langston Hughes and Josephine Baker and Alan Locke. You know, they're celebrated for being musicians and actresses and writers and just prolific individuals, but they also should be celebrated because they identified as gay or bisexual or queer, right? And then there's more. There's also a spread on gays and military that shows how, you know, the evolution of how gay, trans, bisexual, you know, lesbian individuals have been, you know, mistreated to now being more inclusive, right? So it just talks of the journey, the continuation of constantly, you know, fighting for rights, right? Because it is a continual thing that we're still doing right now when we talk about, you know, the rights of, you know, healthcare to, you know, our TGNC community, right? So yeah, that's just a little tidbit. So let's do one more. And how about we do a multiple choice, okay?
Is this an A, B, C?
Yes, this will be A, B, C, and D. Okay, here we go. Not identifying with any gender is A, non-gender, B, agender, C, genderless, or D, all of the above?
Catherine's speedy again.
Okay, what does Catherine say?
Catherine says D like dog.
That's right. Good job. Good job. That's so great. That's great.
Well done, everyone. We do, so if you are interested in asking a question, you can drop that in the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen as well. I do see one already that I think will be fun to answer, having gone through some of that trivia. One of our attendees asks, what are some of your favorite words that you learned while researching that are now a common part of your lexicon?
Right. Well, I must say, I really love my journey with this dictionary and just diving into who I am. So, I'm a little biased, but I am biromantic, and just diving into saying, oh, yes, that's me, right? So we talk a lot about, I'm just going to break it down a little bit. We talk a lot about sexuality, and we have to remember that, that type of identity also, there's also the romantic side of that, right? So things don't have there's intimacy with being romantic, and there's also intimacy with being sexual, right? And they're two totally different things. They can go hand in hand, but they can also be very separate, right? So just learning more about myself, that not only am I bisexual, but I'm biromantic, right? I am also romantically I am romantically attrasted to more than one gender, right? Another one that really, I was like, wow, this makes sense, when I learned about demisexual. And so demisexual is part of the asexual spectrum, actually, right? Demi, when we think about demi, we think of half, right? Or partial. So, it's kind of in this line of, demisexual being, sexual or being non-sexual, or asexual, right? And what it is, though, is that I definitely have sexual yearnings, right? But it comes when I am mentally and emotionally connected with someone, right? So that's where it comes from. There's this strong emotional bond that happens that, ignites me. And I was like, yes, that's me. So that was definitely, one of those words. But, starting from the very beginning, I use a lot of ballroom terms, right? I don't use fierce as much, because I just probably overused it so much. But, I do say like snatched, or this over, or push through, or yes, girl. And I joke, and I love to joke around with my friends, you know what I mean? Like, it feels good. Like, it's just like when the language, it feels good. You're a part of the community, it's, and that's the thing that also about language. A lot of times, some of this language was coded, right? Coded for protection, right? For safety. So when we think, so I don't know if you've heard it a lot, but you can hear a lot of gay men use her or she. And sometimes even her and she is just, it could be anything, a person, place, or thing, or an inanimate object. Like, oh, she's cute. And you could be talking about a coat, right? It's just one of those things. But the reason why it actually started before it evolved to, kind of being this identifier for a person, place, or thing. But it started because of protection, right? So, we have to remember that it was illegal. Homosexuality was illegal, and actually still is illegal in over 70 countries. But during, when we talk about our American history, is that for protection, gay men would use, she and her when they were talking about their partner, so that way no one would know that they were talking about a partner that was another man, right? So it was for safety. So that's also one of those, beautiful tools about like having a did you know, when it kind of shows the progression and the evolution of words. Mm-hmm.
Did all of the words that you learned make it into the book, or did you have to edit some out? What was your favorite one that's, on the cutting room floor?
So I will say, even over 800 terms that are in here, yes, things got cut. So I want to say too that and I'm really proud of this, but this book went through so many sensitivity reads throughout the year. Throughout the years, throughout its evolution. A part of what I would do when I got to a point, I would share, right? I would share with my friends, I would share with individuals who I felt like their input would really, really be helpful in its evolution. And sometimes I got kicked down, they're like, no, Chloe, that's not right. Or it doesn't feel inclusive enough, however, I define it this way, not to say that this is wrong, but I also define it this way. So, okay, then we have to bring in all of these definitions. So I want to say that a lot of sensitivity reads were done. And there were words, honestly, a few years ago that got kicked out because we have to understand too, like language is also hurtful, right? And there's some language in here that's in here, but we have to talk about it. Like we have to, there's terms called no fats, no femmes, or no blacks, no Asians, no Hispanics. So these are phrases used in gay dating apps, right? They are, they're racist, they're prejudiced, they discriminate, right? But this is happening real time, right? So yes, these are in the dictionary because I want people to be aware of what is happening so that we could eradicate that and we can evolve and grow and in a more inclusive, respectful manner, right? But there were terms too where, of course, people were like, no, this does not feel right. Even though these words have been used, it just didn't feel right to have it in there. And I said, okay. And then there are also terms that, I feel like, so I wanted to make sure whether they were older or not, they would be in there. But we did want to step away from things that were too sexual because I also wanted to make sure that this dictionary is for everyone. I do want to eventually make a dictionary just for our young people, our youth, but for the most part, I feel like this is good for 16 and up. You know what I mean? 15 and up, maybe. Because I wanted it to be accessible. So there were some sexual terms that got the boot.
Fair enough. Let's see here. I had a question. Where'd it go? One of our attendees asks, or begins with a statement. I love books that come about as a result of lots of research, especially interviews. Do you have some favorite interview stories or great characters, unexpected answers, wild connections?
Every one of them. I do remember it was towards the beginning. I remember, so I was, people joked around with me because for a long time before, like, so we're talking 2006, guys. So this, everyone that's a long time, right? So I remember having my like notebook and pen, like writing things down as I listened. And I remember having my little notebook and pen, and this time my little recorder. And I was sitting with some of my friends, and we were actually, just talking about some terms, and it was just so much fun. The laughter. I think that was the thing. It's like there's just so much laughter because this dictionary is also funny because, there's wit and there's charm and there's sass, to the community. I just wanted to make sure that I brought all of those colors out. So having those like gut bucket laughs were just amazing. But I also have to say that there were, and actually in the beginning of the dictionary, I have a dedication page because I dedicate this dictionary to all of you all who are brave to be who you are, right? And also to allow me to share the essence of your words, right? Because this is important. I have had so many beautiful, transparent conversations about identity. And a lot of times it's not good. They're not happy. You know what I mean? It's challenging. There's trauma, there's hurt, there's pain. But for people to be able to share that with me, that's a responsibility. And I felt moved to say, okay, I will create a platform for your words to be heard. You know what I mean? For the truth to be heard, right? Because again, when we talk about the sensitivity of not of being non-heteronormative, when I say non-heteronormative, not being heterosexual, not being cisgender, you go through a time of being ostracized. You go through a time of oppression and marginalization and violence, right? Let's talk about Black trans women, right? So for people to share their whole selves with me, and to trust me, those were the types of moments that just like propelled me to say, okay, I don't care how long it takes, I'm gonna get it done, I'm gonna get it done. So I feel like those are the types of moments that really moved me. It's just people just sharing their story. And again, like, I didn't always know these individuals, right? I might have just met them and they're like, hey, let's talk about it, so I'm happy that whatever my aura was giving, that they trusted me. And I'm happy that I was able to articulate their experiences as well as my own, right? And something as a book, something that is respected and scholarly and heard and seen and historic, because this is going to last a lifetime, right?
Mhm. As long as there's paper.
That's right.
Even longer, actually, because I think it's an ebook also.
Yeah.
Catherine, our trivia winner,
Yeah.
asks, I'm interested to know more about the social structures you encountered in writing the book. I grew up among a group of lesbian moms who all shared childcare and holidays with all the moms and the kids.
Mm-hmm. So there's actually a spread in here that talks about the queer family dynamic, right? And goes deeper into what that looks like and that experience, because that is a truly unique experience, right? When we talk about, when partners want to build their love into a family, it can come from adoption, it can come from having children already, it can come from donor insemination, it can come from surrogates, but there's also, it's about building a community and like a safety for people who really understand that experience. So yes, I was, also able to, write about those type of experiences, especially, I know on the East Coast, like P-Town is like the place to be, Provincetown, and they have family days or the family week, and that's something. So yes, I have been in so many different groups, and I think that's important, right? That was the only way I was able to write the dictionary. I had to go inside the group. I had to be welcomed into the space, right? Like, because what we have to realize is that we all have to work to be allies, right? Because yes, we're in this large umbrella, right? However, I'm not a mom yet, right? But I want to be a mom, right? And I'm Black and I'm bisexual. And that's very different from, again, AAPI or Asian queer, or, you know what I mean? We all just have very different experiences.
Yeah.
So when I talk about allyship, it's really important that we understand other people's experiences, right? So we all can evolve and grow and build that compassion and care for one another, because that's what this world needs right now. Yeah.
Well, and I feel like one of the really lasting legacies of having a dictionary of this is I feel like words are such a tool for belonging. Like, you use the words you use so that you can belong in the community that you're in. And that sense of belonging is so important. And I love the way that allows folks to create, for instance, families outside of like biological relationships and things like that, and the way that can foster love and community and that sense of belonging, especially for folks that have a multi-layered dessert of marginalizations,
Yeah.
as we confront a society that is not yet accepting of all the different ways we can be.
Right. And another thing, what I started doing too before the book came out, I wanted to actually just capture kind of the research process. So if you visit www.thequeensenglishus.com, there are videos on there, and these are, I call it Inside the Queen's English, because these are videos that I'm sitting, one-on-one with individuals, and we're diving into language that, truly articulates their identity. And I try to go wide, right? So, I have sat down and talked with, a child of, two lesbian moms, or you call her a gaby, I've talked with, two moms, two dads, trans masculine individual, transgender woman, bisexual woman, diving into the ballroom scene, diving into the ASL queer community, right? So we have to, that's what I mean about diversity. And that's what I mean about the intersectionality of it. And those are the types of things that I wanted to layer and have in the dictionary, because again, I want to show the truth of who we are, and that is diverse and beautiful and important.
Do you anticipate, sorry, I just got really excited. Do you anticipate a Queen's ASL dictionary?
You know what? I want to create all of them. I think that would be wonderful. However, I am excited to announce that there is the Queen's English UK edition that will be coming out. Yes, so it's expanding, and I hope it continues to expand, because again, like we said earlier in the introduction, like this dictionary helps guide really important conversations about inclusivity and diversity and identity, whether that be sexual orientation, gender expression, or just gender identity itself. We are evolving. Shout out to Instagram, right? That in your profile right now, you can put your pronouns. So we see it. We see the evolution is happening. So it's one of those things where it's like, but let's get the right information. I had a conversation with some high schoolers, all identify within the in the gay and queer community. And I loved it. It was they felt empowered, but I felt empowered, right? Just hearing, their concerns. And one of the biggest concerns is, why don't people respect pronouns? You know what I mean? And so, I just want to put that out there. Like, if you're listening, like, pronouns are important. They are important, and they truly affirm someone's identity. So whatever pronouns someone uses, then we all should just do our best to learn them, right? And if we don't get it on the first try, that's okay. This is a learning process. Just continue to work on it, right? So that's what I mean about evolution, and just understanding that the world is not black and white. The world is not binary. It is truly on a spectrum.
And a beautiful prismatic spectrum it is. One of our other panelists, or our other attendees, sorry, it got mooshed up in my little chat box. Would you anticipate like a teacher's guide to the Queen's English, with ways to use the Queen's English in classrooms, virtual resources,
yes,
those kind of things?
So definitely when it comes to educational purposes, and even DEI, right? When we talk about diversity, equity, inclusion within the work field, right? I am definitely doing those things now. So you could, email me and let me know if you want me to be a part of that. But yes, I think that's important, right? Having these conferences and guides on, how to use inclusive language. And then also just how to also instruct and help students, understand themselves. Because we have to remember, like this book is a celebration, but this book also helps people evolve. It helped me evolve, right? So, especially young people and even old, right? Because evolution is forever. Evolution is forever, right? So it's just like having something to like help guide you on your journey of evolution, right? To say, oh, okay, I feel connected with this word, right? And I want to say too, it's not about labels. It's not about confining yourself in a box. It's just having tools, words that articulate, an experience to say, I also feel that feels good to me. So I can kind of navigate, myself to say, okay, I feel good about this. This feels good. I want to use this for now, because then it might be something else. But yes, that is in the making. And if you would want me to be a part of that, please, just shoot an email over.
I did drop the link for Chloe's website into the chat. So if you are interested in reaching out to her for that, look there. And I might give one last question. It's going to be a hard question from one of our participating bookstores. They emailed me a whole list of questions. What was your favorite thing that you learned in the process of making the book, both about queer language and also language taxonomy?
So I think the most important thing I learned was American gay and queer history, because it's not talked about, So to dive in more into Stonewall, to dive more into the Harlem Renaissance, to dive in more with, World War II and how the leather community started, to dive in more about how the femme and butch binary was actually started in the 1940s in lesbian bars. And that was during a time when women, were first allowed to go out without a man. You know what I mean? We have to really think about the evolution of life that's happened here. So I think that is really what moved me, right? Because from the words have a history, right? The words were created during a particular time, again, why? To articulate an experience. So I think that's what really, I just kept diving in more and more and more into like the word, but what brought the word, right? And even something as simple as, MSM, right? Let's see, I wanna actually pull that up, but just little notes about how gay and bisexual men could not donate blood, right? So this was after the AIDS crisis, right? We're talking in the 1980s. So gay and bisexual men, queer men could not donate blood, right? Because it's like, there was, the FDA was like, they're like, no, they're afraid because of, HIV and AIDS. And, it's like so discriminatory, right? And then I want to say, I want to pull up because I don't want to guess. I want to let you know. Okay. So I'm actually going to read this. So MSM, noun, an abbreviation for men who have sex with men, often used in medical and social research. This abbreviation is not limited to gay men though, okay? So here's the thing, right? So, and this is a did you know? In 1983, the US Food and Drug Administration, FDA, implemented a lifetime ban of blood donations from men who have sex with men. The FDA changed its lifetime ban in 2015. Do you hear this? 2015. The ban was started in 1983. They changed it in 2015 to a deferral eligibility plan requiring all MSM to be celibate for 1 year. So celibate, cannot have sex for 1 year to donate blood. Many gay and bisexual men felt that the FDA's deferral plan was discriminatory, right? And actor Alan Cumming used his creative humor to combat the clause, advising all MSM to accept the celibacy challenge. In 2020, due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the low blood supply, the FDA changed the 1 year ban to only 3 months waiting period. So this is the type of information that really drove me, right? To go in and say, wow, you know what I mean? Yeah, those are the types of things to like bring that type of knowledge to the forefront so people can swallow what actually happened. So we can see full sight, what was happening, the prejudice, the discrimination, So yeah, I think those are the types of things that really like moved me to say, oh, wow. But then also the beauty of even through the ugliness, how like our world still shines, right? Yeah.
Wonderful. Lane also says, thank you for making this book. It rules. So also curious, one of our attendees asks, can we get a book recommendation? So what are you reading these days?
What am I reading? Honestly, I know this sounds crazy, but I am always reading this little manual. But okay, just to nerd out just a little bit. So I have like taught myself about the stock market. So now I'm just kind of like reading up on like, what are the best stocks to buy? But
was that a pandemic hobby you developed?
Actually, I want to say yes, but it was also just a goal in general, just about like financial literacy and education, and just, pushing myself in that way.
While we picks up the Queen's English and reads it and rereads it and keeps it on the coffee table, are there other books that you might recommend about these kinds of topics or about queer identity and queer experience?
There are actually a few. I'm actually looking at one right now. We Are Everywhere. I really like this. It's a beautiful hardback and much larger than the Queen's English, but it's beautiful because that kind of goes into like another photography or like design book to like kind of go deeper into like queer history, right? LGBTQIA plus history, and I think that's important. But there's some beautiful books that are out, and I want to encourage everyone to kind of check out Lambda Literary, because their focus is on empowering LGBTQIA plus books and artists and poets, right? So I think that's where I would love to kind of like send that recommendation, because they always have a beautiful, powerful list. Amazing, queer and gay and bisexual and trans, authors and writers that are here, and changing the world. So
definitely. And they have a great awards list every year, which is also super fun. I think we might have our Lambda display up still at the store. So if you're in Bozeman or coming through town, stop on by and check that out. If you haven't yet purchased your copy of the Queen's English, just visit booksincommonnw.com and click on the logo of your favorite sponsoring store, and we'll get. I want to say a gigantic thank you to Chloe for joining us this evening. It was an absolute delight and such a treasure to get to share this book with you, or book with us more accurately. So thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you so much, Jessica, for having me. I really, really appreciate it. And again, thank you for Country Bookshelf. Thank you for bringing me virtually to Montana. I love it.
Always.
Thank you.
And thank you all to our I hope it's not me. Again, grab your copy. Come visit us in person sometime, Chloe. We'd love to have you. Next time you're traveling, don't just stop in Butte.
I'll definitely come through.
And if you are interested in more great books in common events, thanks everyone. Have a great evening.
Thank you.